king of New York now. Oh, yes, they'll get a statue of Danhausen and a mural of Danhausen. And Danhausen on the side of Times Square, the side of Madison Square Garden. But of course, congratulations to the Knickshausens, because you did all the work. It was a little team effort. Danhausen uncursed you. He cursed a couple of your opponents, which he really didn't have to do. He just wanted to get a little extra human money on the side there. Extort the billionaire Stephen A. Smith. But nevertheless, we get it. And now the mayor has to give Danhausen a parade of his own and a statue or whatever I said. I don't know, some big balloon animal floating in between Snoopy and Garfield. We can have Danhausen Day. We can have the Knicks Day. And we can celebrate that you are the NBA 2026 champions, and you are uncursed.
It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right, I know it's a wrestling show for the most part, but I got to mention it for a brief moment. Congratulations to the New York Knicks. They are one. That looks good. They are the 2026 NBA World Champions. I tell you, I am extremely ecstatic. I've been doing this since 1997. Anybody who follows me for a long time knows that I've been a lifelong Knicks fan, but I also have admitted that over recent years, I just fell out of favor with the Knicks and basketball altogether for various reasons. But I still remember the first game that I ever got my eyes on when the Knicks was 1984 with Bernard King. And I've told this story many times over the years. And then Patrick Ewing came over from Georgetown. And the next thing you know, we had Rick Pitino as a coach. And then they started putting the team together with Charles Oakley and John Starks. And, later on, it led to Pat Riley. And I always thought Pat Riley was great until he left to go to Miami Heat. And, you got a little good taste of 93, even though it was a little too soon. Then it led to 94. And then it was kind of like, But at least in 1994, we had the New York Rangers win the Stanley Cup. New York Rangers have always been my lifelong favorite hockey team. And then we get to the year 2000. And now the team is changing. You got Allen Houston. Later on, you got Latrell Sprewell and a whole bunch of others. I tell you, to see Charles Oakley back yesterday was awesome. Don't know if he'll ever get unbanned with Madison Square Garden, but, I will say this, and we'll move on right now. I'll say this in closing. Two things that come to mind. Actually, three things. Number one, I love the quote that they said yesterday on the Knicks radio network that the team proved that no lead was too big and no guard was too small. Jalen Brunson reminds me of old school, like Isaiah Thomas. If anybody remembers Isaiah Thomas from the Detroit Pistons, and by the way, a lot of similarities, comparison there, but I tell you, you realize that of the 5 greatest comebacks in NBA history, the Knicks have the first, the third, and the 5th highest comebacks. Just kept coming back. I like Jalen Brunson's comment yesterday that, the game starts at 8:30 and they seem to be showing up at 9. Once they show up to work at 9, then things change. I tell you, that first quarter yesterday was brutal. I'm ecstatic for the Knicks. I'm ecstatic for New York. I will say one last thing, and actually two. You guys may not realize this, but here in New York, there's a legendary coach, Red Holtzman. And in the rafters in Madison Square Garden, you see that banner of 613, number of wins for the Knicks. And ironically, yesterday they won on 6/13, June 13th. So that's one thing that I just am very like, that's pretty cool. Second thing is, yes, we've seen some assholes in New York City destroying a cop car, destroying a bus, ripping a jersey off a Spurs fan. We've seen the opposite happen in San Antonio as well. You know, when you're looking at tens of thousands of fans, maybe in the case of hundreds of thousands of fans, you're going to get assholes. You're going to get people that just want to cause trouble. The idea that San Antonio was going to ban out-of-staters from attending yesterday's game is asinine and ridiculous. You do not judge an entire fan base because of a few assholes that you saw in New York City. I'll also say this too. I'm in my 50s. I'm too young to remember 1973, which was the last year that the Knicks won the championship. I have seen tons of highlights over the years, the Willis Reed game. I've seen footage of the parade in New York City, but I am old enough to remember, or young enough to remember, when the Yankees won the World Series in 1977, when they repeated in 1978. And if I forget a year, forgive me. As you see, I am not reading a teleprompter or notes. This is all from my mind. And I'll tell you, 10 days being off Ambien now, I'm starting to feel a little bit back to normal, so I don't think we'll get any loopy moments tonight. But I'm young enough to remember 1977 and 78 when the Yankees won the World Series. I remember 1986. I remember even the Islanders when they won their championship. I remember the Mets in 86. I remember the Yankees in 96, 98, 99, 2000. I remember all those years. And I remember the Rangers in 1994. I remember the Giants in 1986 and then in 1990. I remember the Giants the last time when they screwed up the Patriots' undefeated season. I remember all of the reaction. And I got to be honest with you, I have never seen this kind of fan base for the Knicks across the United States, even in New York City. See, with baseball, it's a little different because you're in October and it gets cold out. I remember when the Mets won in 86, it was cold out. Me and my friends were thinking about going to the city to see the parade, but we didn't. I remember the temperature being cold. Baseball, you're getting into October. Even in the case, if they would have won in 2001, it would have been November parade. So the weather is a lot different, especially when you think of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl's in the wintertime. So, you know, fans are a little bit more reserved. But when it comes to basketball and even hockey, you know, you're smack in the summer season. And I never saw that amount of people turning out for a New York championship in New York City. There were fireworks, explosions going off over here. It was awesome to see, especially with all the bullshit going on in this world. Today, I heard that Iran and the United States may finally have a peace agreement, but that doesn't improve the economy right away. That doesn't improve a lot of bullshit that we all go through. It doesn't improve some of the health issues that we deal with, financial relationships. You know, there's a lot of shit going on. And, you know, I have my thoughts about our mayor in New York City, no question. But yesterday was not about Democrat or Republican. It was not about black or white. It was not about Long Island versus New York City or Brooklyn versus Queens or Democrat versus Republican. It was simply just about New York forgetting all of our fucking problems. New York forgetting all of our issues and just celebrating that, you know, we won a championship. And very, very cool to see go down. Very, very cool to see go down. And let me tell you something. I will say this, because there's a lot of San Antonio fans out there, because a lot of you have been having some fun with me the last couple of weeks. Let me tell you this. That team reminds me a lot of the Knicks in 1993. And I know for a lot of you out there, you may not have even been born yet at that time, but they seem like they're a little bit young still, little inexperienced. I think this is kind of like even like the Mets in 85. We didn't have a wild card in 1985. The Mets, it felt like, they're finally starting to turn it around. Spurs have been great, but I think this just adding another year or two, and obviously they need to make some changes on their team, but there's 3 or 4 players that I have noticed during the series that they definitely should build their team around, and I think the Spurs will do just fine. Me being a New Yorker, I don't want it to happen again for the next couple of years. Let's see the Knicks repeat in 2027. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right. Welcome to the sit down. I am Don Tony, and yes, I can't stand idiots. No, I can't stand idiots. I can't stand idiots. I decided to wear that shirt because, man, January 29th, 2024, I tell you, as time goes further by, I realize that when people say to me, DT, what are some of your greatest episodes you've ever done? Because I've been doing this since 1997. And it's very hard to cherry pick the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show, the Minority Report, solo shows that I do. But I will tell you, January 29th, 2024 is turning into one of the most iconic episodes that I have ever done. Sure, the Benoit tragedy was fucking surreal. We covered that in real time. The opening of that episode, we were paying tribute to Chris Benoit. And as the show went on, we learned that he took out his family. By the end of the episode, we were spitting on his grave and he wasn't even buried yet. That's an iconic episode. There's other ones as well, but I tell you, January 29, 2024 is really turning into one for the ages. It was the first episode that Kev, God rest his soul, Kev and I returned full time as the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. We were split for several years. And we did some special episodes here and there. And we did, as we were rebuilding our friendship. But January 29, 2024 was the first episode that we were back full time. And it was what was fucking hilarious about it. And this is why it's so iconic. And this does have to do with Janel Grant and Vince McMahon, because we will open up with that. And then we will get right into your questions. We'll also talk about what's turning into a pretty interesting King and Queen of the Ring tournament and the ramifications with SummerSlam, especially because of an apparent injury. Definitely got some talk there. But I will say this, when Kevin and I was split for numerous years, there was so many people out there in the podcast world, even friends, obviously, but a lot of people that we never even rubbed elbows with that said, why don't you two guys get back together? You guys, you were magic. You guys did this. And, at the time we were like, nah, I'm not going to do a show with someone that I'm not friends with. And Kev said the same thing. And, if we go get back together, it's got to be for the right reason, blah, 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 blah. And we didn't. We waited. And slowly we repaired our friendship. And then we decided, all right, you know what? For all these motherfuckers that had been bugging us for years, get back together. We announced that we were returning full-time January 29, 2024, and I still got the DMs. And even a conversation Kevin and I had a couple of weeks after. Soon as we came back full-time, 95% of everyone out there in media, whether it's news, opinions, shows, podcasts, serious satellite shows, 95% of these motherfuckers disappeared. 95% of them didn't even say, wow, cool. I'm so glad you guys are back together. So we realized early on that they knew we weren't going to get back together. So they just tried to play face like, oh, you guys should get back together. And the minute we said, yeah, we are, they're like, oh, fuck. And they just disappeared. So recently, on Kev's 58th birthday, it would have been his 58th birthday, we learned about what Nick Khan said at the Sports Business Journal about Roman and Cody. You got that. But remember, the conversation that Kevin and I said, predicting the We Want Cody movement and everything else, was January 29, 2024. Same episode. Well, now we get to the news that broke the last 72 hours. that Janel Grant and Vince McMahon, the legal attorneys on both sides, have agreed to move the case to arbitration. Holy fucking shit. Holy shit. Now, I put on X. We're going to talk about that because, yeah, I'll be a cocky son of a bitch for a minute. No one, zero, nobody out there since day one-ish, other than Kevin, myself, said there's arbitration. There's a contract dispute. There's a contract dispute. It's arbitration. It'll ultimately go to arbitration. It's a contract dispute. Every single one of my friends rode the bus, toyed with the emotion, kind of like blurred the line, said this, said that, said it in the middle, likely, possibly, all this nonsense. And I put on X over the weekend a 20-minute conversation that Kevin and I had on January 29, 2024, 4 days after the lawsuit documents came out. Wasn't even out a week. And if you listen to that entire 20 minutes, everything that we said was spot on. The only thing that I said, and I still think it could happen, is that Vince McMahon is going to be served with divorce papers. Everything else that we said ended up happening, but I want to share with you 1 minute, not 20 minutes, 1 minute. I want you to hear the final minute of that 20-minute conversation of what Kevin and I said about Janel Grant.
I mean, we're getting into the areas of things that we're not even sure about. There's much more of this story. We read one. See, DT, what a lot of people think is what they read in those excerpts you read. That means it's all fact. Yeah. For some reason, people are taking that as fact. Stamped and approved, cut and dry, Vince McMahon is guilty, throw him in prison. It's not that simple.
It's not that simple. You gotta wait for everything to come out, and it's very disturbing. And like you said, hopefully we don't have to talk about it anytime.
Oh yeah, I'd be glad to not talk about it anymore.
But if she, the one thing out of everything, if she fucking settles out of court, that's it. It's like
what a slap in the face to all the women's groups and stuff that defended her. If she settles out of court, she is not going to be the baby face anymore.
Out of court. And listen, with all due respect, guys, I don't think anybody in the chat room,
DT.
Yeah, with all due respect, guys, I don't think anybody in the chat room wants to see Vince McMahon doing these compromise stuff with the women in WWE.
Hell no.
Yeah, we don't need to see that. So
yeah, guys, we don't need to see that. Yeah, let's see that.
It's pretty disgusting. But just for that though, we are going to move on to someone else that was accused of some vile stuff, and that's Velveteen Dream.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we had to leave the Velveteen Dream coming in there. Hey, at least it's not like a Conrad clip. Did you see the one recently where Eric Bischoff is talking about Chad Gable and Real American Wrestling? And you go to click on the clip, and the first 20 minutes or the first 7 minutes is them talking about the NWO. Like half that clip is nothing to do with the topic, and then the last is like a minute of it. Listen, I'm going to open up with this episode talking a few moments about this case. Now, the funny thing is, this McBox score that you see here, we actually made that 2 years ago. But I didn't have that photo of Janel Grant, obviously, and we didn't have that was going to happen at this point. But 2 years ago, we built on our conversation. Janel Grant won the court of public opinion. I'm not trying to be a scumbag when I say this, but I have to call out some names. And the first one at the top of the list is WrestleNomics. There is absolutely nothing wrong with Brandon Thurston and Pollock. I think that's how you pronounce his name, not Pollock, but Pollock. And others there. I have no issue whatsoever if they want to see Vince McMahon guilty, castrated, lose all his money, go to jail, don't like the man. I am perfectly fine with that mindset. There's a lot of you out there that feel the same way. In fact, I do want to make this disclaimer because I know some people are going to see this and they're going to immediately think that Kevin and I were big-time Vince McMahon supporters. Go check out that full 20-minute clip. I just shared with you 1 minute. Listen to the whole 20-minute clip. Nowhere in there do we support Vince McMahon. What we said the entire time is you got to call it like you see it. Okay? Just because Janel Grant looks like a cute, innocent woman doesn't mean that she wasn't getting her rocks off by having all these men drooling over her. All right, this was Eyes Wide Shut meets the Learning Channel or TLC or whatever these documentaries are. This is Caligula. All right, the idea that you have a one man and one woman or one woman and one woman or one man and one man relationship. All right, and yes, Vince McMahon has been a pig. Vince McMahon has abused his power. Vince McMahon, I will agree with all of that. But when you have the responsibility and you call yourself a reporter, you have to put your biasness aside and report facts. If you want to give an editorial or give an opinion after you present the facts, that's perfectly fine. But for over 2 years, you guys have seen a lot of people in the wrestling media world, led by WrestleNomics, that gave you this narrative, pushed this narrative, that Janel Grant was a victim, she was trafficked, she was this, Vince did that, Brock Lesnar did this, doctors did that, this and that. They were presenting it as facts because they don't like the man. They believe in their hearts that she was trafficked. Me, I've said this since day one. We will never know what actually happened behind closed doors, especially now, because they have agreed to go to arbitration. But the mindset to take a narrative and push it as fact, and push it as fact, and push it as fact, and then you saw what was happening. You look up Janel Grant's attorney, and you see the background on her, and you understand that since day one, their goal was to win the court of public opinion. You have heard me say that 1,000 times in the last year and a half. As time went on and more started to come out, remember, it was over a year and a half ago, that her lawyer said that there were other women waiting to come out that were ready to speak. What happened to all of them? All right. This was always a contract dispute. The idea that she was getting all of these gifts and money and this and that. And remember, she lived in a condo that her ex-boyfriend owned. She lived in the same building. I'm not going to give you a recap of what went down, but she's not 19 years old. She's 40 or 45, whatever it is. And your girlfriend tells you, hey, you're looking for a job? You should get in touch with Vince McMahon. He lives in your building. He runs WWE. I have no idea who that is. Well, why don't you talk to him? And for 3 months, you're going to his condo in the same building, giving him back massages. Oh, so good. You're doing all this stuff, and you're telling your girlfriend how everything's going. 3 months go by, you have no job, but you keep visiting his place. You don't do a Google search, or your friend doesn't do a Google search, say, girl, I think you better stay away from him. He's grooming you, or something. So the thing is, when we started to see all these little things come out, we just said, listen, we don't know if she was trafficked. We don't know if she was a willing participant. In my heart, I always felt that she was obviously devastated about her parents. She obviously was lonely. She obviously didn't have the money. And Vince came in like a knight in shining armor, her daddy figure, that swooped her off her feet, and made her feel like $1 million, made her feel like she was loved. And then when the kinky shit came in, then suddenly, oh my God, the sexuality explodes, and this guy wants her, and this guy wants her, and this happens, and this happens. What happened to Johnny Ace, Johnny the Rat? He leaves the case because he's going to help her? How the fuck did he help her? Some people think I'm nuts when I said this. I said, I will not be surprised if we find out in the future that John Laurinaitis and Janel Grant are a couple, end up becoming an item, because you feel at the end of the day, those two people might be perfect for each other. The bottom line is, my opinions have always been my opinion. I never presented it as fact, never once. But I will say this, and I've said this for a year and a half. Janel Grant, their lawyers, were doing everything possible to win the court of public opinion, putting statements out there. When WWE Vince McMahon's biography came out on Netflix, they put statements out there. Janel Grant speaks in front of Connecticut's, the court system, talking about laws that should be passed and telling everyone that she's a victim, she's been trafficked, this and that. I always felt in my heart, as an opinion, is that she got burned. She got burned from a pig who used her, took advantage of her, manipulated her. I don't know if he trafficked her, but she was obviously hurt by it. And she originally was going to accept $3 million and never say a thing about it ever again. Now, obviously, there are people in WWE that did not know about this story. And once it started to come out and you start thinking that, hey, Vince is the chairman, it seems like he's done some things he's not supposed to. What do you think WWE management is supposed to do? Just say, she's not here anymore. Just let it go. No, you have to look into it. So this idea that stuff was leaked out to this place or this place, just because you sign an NDA doesn't mean that if Vince McMahon committed violations within the company that investors and stockholders have a right to know about, that you don't pursue it because, she signed an NDA, I guess that's it. But the court of public opinion was always the number one goal. And it was led by WrestleNomics and a lot of others out there. They convinced you that Vince was guilty. They convinced you that she was a victim. They convinced you that Brock Lesnar did some really fucked up stuff. And if you remember, Brock Lesnar, the only person that should have vilified Brock Lesnar is his wife and his kids. Vince shows a picture of her to him, and she's like, hey, I'd love to see you pee on yourself. If I was Sable, I would have just grabbed the house dog and say, hey, you want somebody to pee on you? Here, Brutus, pee on his face. The only person that should have been angry and irate should have been Sable and the family. But the IWC tried to convince that there was one narrative, and it doesn't take away that Vince abused Rita Chatterton. Doesn't take away that Vince abused that woman in the tanning salon, Tanzabar. Remember that story we covered many years ago? Vince has definitely done some fucked up shit. I always felt that Vince, his entire life, was trying to find that freak where all his fantasies could be fulfilled, and he found her. And when she was no longer the freak that he could mold and this and that, he dumped her. And she was devastated over it. He offered her $3 million and she signed it. And then Vince decides, Vince's biggest mistake was to stop paying after the $1 million. If Vince would have still gave her the $2 million, that would have been the end of this. But here's the thing that leads to now. Janel Grant won the court of public opinion. Janel Grant won the court of public opinion. You go online, Janel Grant, victim. Speaking out for other victims, speaking out for others who can't speak out, speaking out for people who have been trafficked from other people, victims of, P. Diddy shit and this and that, being the role model for all victims. And 2.5 years ago, Kevin, I said, if she settles, that's it. That's it. Now, why? They've already presented their argument for this to go to arbitration, or if it should not go to arbitration. All Janel Grant, just think about this, friend. This is the most critical part of all of this. The court was already deciding if it should go to arbitration. All Janel Grant had to do was wait. If she would have waited and the judge said, look, this is a contract dispute. We're moving this to arbitration. to the day she dies, Janel Grant would have been viewed by most people online as she was a victim and the court system screwed her and put her to arbitration. If she would have waited and waited for the court to force this case to go to arbitration, her lawyer's harsh. She could say, I didn't want this to go to arbitration, but unfortunately the court made that decision and there's nothing we can do about it. She would have been labeled a victim forever. But right before this court rules arbitration, you agree to voluntarily go to arbitration. You agree to Why didn't she wait another week, another 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months? It was this close of going to arbitration. Why did she voluntarily do that? In the end, she is negotiating with her monster. She is negotiating with her trafficker. She is negotiating with her abuser. She is negotiating with the abuser that has abused other women. She agrees to settle this quietly with information being kept private. Why would you do that? You were going to have to do that anyway. Why would you voluntarily do that? There's got to be a reason. And I think I have the reason. Tomorrow, I am talking to a good reporter in Connecticut, not a wrestling reporter, but someone that we talked to about a year ago. Got some very interesting info because, this is a big story. And there's not many people out there that took the stance that Kevin and I took since day one. So, our comments kind of stick out compared to everyone else. Tomorrow, around lunchtime, I'm going to be speaking with this young lady who is a reporter in Connecticut, and I'm going to discuss a few things. And one of the biggest questions that I think I have the answer for, but I want to talk to her about it, see if she knows anything about it, is why did she voluntarily do that? Why did she do that? Before I say anything else, I saw that this came in right before we went live. And this kind of segues to what I just said. I really don't want to jump the gun and tell you what I think it is, but I will tell you what I think is next. This came in from Ronnie, and Ronnie says, I know you and Kevin said all along that this would end in arbitration. You nailed the case so far, but DT, there has to be a specific reason why she didn't wait for the court to rule it. Think about this. If this would have went to arbitration, if she would have been forced to go to arbitration, what would have likely happened, and this is something you've heard me say many times over the years, is the court would have forced Vince to pay the other $2 million. They would have also forced him to pay the attorney fees, interest, and maybe even some additional damages because of what this has done to her going through this case and everything else. If this would have been pushed to arbitration without her voluntarily going along with it, she still would have got paid. The lawyers would have got paid. And a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, she could go on speaking engagements, and there are enough people out there that will believe every word she said. My God, look at some, and I don't mean to just single out WrestleNomics. They were by far not the only ones out there, but they're the ones with the biggest cred. And that's a compliment. They're the ones that get a lot of republished and reposts from other people in the media. You know, they read a weekly rating for television, for AEW. They go on Broadcasting Insider, whatever that shit is, and they read the rating and then they repost it and everybody gives them credit for it instead of the place that they read it from. All right. They are very, very well liked in the wrestling community. So they definitely deserve to be criticized a little bit for their take, a very biased take. Unfortunately, you will not see that out there. And let me also make this perfectly clear. Do not buy into the bullshit that Vince McMahon, once again, because he's a billionaire, he bought his way out of this. That is bullshit. That is just emotion. That is clickbait. That is trying to get people who already despise Vince say, see, the billionaire won again. All right. This was going to arbitration anyway. She was going to get paid anyway. If it was a contract dispute, she didn't violate the contract. She was going to win. Whatever that was going to be handed to her. This was not Vince paying off lawyers, because Vince is going to end up paying a shitload more than if he just would have gave it $2 million. So anybody out there and listen, I guarantee you the people out there that are going to push that narrative, people out there just trying to cover their ass for 2 years thinking that Vince was going to go to jail, Vince was going to be convicted by the feds, Vince was going to be held accountable for this. The shit was going to come out that Vince did criminal activity, and Vince, because of this and because of that he gets away with it. Listen, Vince's car accident, he got away with it. Absolutely. The fact that he did what he did and the cops didn't even detain him, or they just let him go on his way and blah, 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 blah. You saw how the cops really treated him with kid gloves when he got pulled over. All right. He was speeding. The cops put their lights and sirens on and he did not stop. And then he had a 1050 is a car accident. And then he crashed. Anyone else would have been put in handcuffs. And that's where a billionaire got preferential treatment. All right. Vince McMahon's money was not the reason why this went voluntarily to arbitration, because it makes Janel Grant come across like anyone else out there who signed an NDA and got paid. They tried to convince you that Janel Grant was taking psychotic drugs, that she didn't even know what she was doing every single day. Just think about that for a minute. If you read this case closely, Vince was sending her here to get injections and pills and this and that. And she didn't know what she was doing. She was under duress. Her mind wasn't there when she's driving a BMW. That's a stop sign. I think I need to stop. That's a red light. I think I need to stop. When I take a shit, I got to wipe my ass. Yeah. When I make eggs, I got to cook them first. This is someone that seemed to be able to do everything else fine. But when it came to Vince McMahon, I don't know where it was. I know what I was doing. And I'm not trying to make fun of her. But when you see all of this stuff and use common sense and take a step back for a minute and say, listen, Vince is an asshole. I would not want Vince to be my father. But when you see all of these gifts and all this money and working here and doing this and doing that, hey, Janel, could you type up this office memo? We got to pass it around to the employees. If they came back and the office memo looked like Michael J. Fox wrote it right now, then you could say, what's up with this woman? Is she all there? Is there anything? Only when she was around Vince intimately did suddenly she turned into a vegetable. So in the end, by agreeing to settle with the devil, to negotiate with the devil, you took every victim and sent the message that in the end, I'm getting paid. In the end, the only way she saves face here is if she takes that money and donates at least half of it to victims. She gets $10 million. She donates half of it to victims. If she takes a good chunk of that money, donates it for causes, she will save face. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Not only that, understand this. When this is a contract dispute, she still has to honor what the court decides to rule. She's not going to settle with Vince. Her lawyers are going to try to come up with some fucking great excuse to put online, and you'll see the usual suspects that will take it and spin it and try to make it seem like, hey, maybe right now she's taking those medications again. Maybe the attorneys are doing it. Maybe we'll find out after that their brain was all fried in vegetable. And that's why they agreed to voluntarily settle this quietly. That's the word. and this is the reason I'm jumping the gun, but since Ronnie was generous and he sent that, this is why I think she did this. Because think about this, just to summarize. Vince's attorneys already told the judge this is arbitration. This is a contract dispute. This should not be in the court the way it is. It should be moved to arbitration. I told you guys 10 days ago that the guy that sued AEW last year and Jon Moxley for assault and battery, when Moxley shoved him down and he broke his neck and fucking turned it to a cripple, and I know I'm exaggerating, all right? A week and a half ago, I told you guys that they agreed last week to move it to arbitration. I think July 24th, they're going to go in front of a judge, and the attorneys for Moxley, the attorneys for AEW, and the attorneys for the guy, this Ander, whatever his name was, I don't have it in front of me, they're going to negotiate a payment. It's going to be private. We're not going to know the details. In fact, as part of this deal, Tony Khan doesn't want anything made public with certain things. All right. Have you seen anybody in the wrestling world cover it? No. The reason why is because I'm the one that let it out to you all first. Because trust me, there's some people in the news world that know I already put this out there. But they're waiting for one of the big sites to put it out there, and then they'll all cut and paste them. All right. When it goes to arbitration, lips are sealed. She gets paid. Her attorneys cannot suddenly go after fucking Vince. They can't. They could try to portray it that she was put in a position where she had no choice. So why do I think she did this? Vince is a trafficker. Vince is an abuser. Vince is a criminal. Vince has committed crimes. Vince has hurt a lot of women. And she is going to be the one that is finally going to stop this shit and do something about it. And in the end, she does what every other woman did. Why? Let me tell you why. And I'm saying this to be cocky because, again, you go search everyone else. At some points, they're out in fucking left field. They're out in fucking the special area, in the handicap zone with some of their takes, because it gets a lot of attention, hits and views. All right. I've been consistent since day one, been spot on since day one, and I'll tell you why now. I think it was because of fear. See, the thing is, Vince McMahon's attorneys could request to the judge that Janel Grant be deposed. No one has filed a deposition. Have you read any statements from Brock Lesnar? No. Have you read any statements from Vince McMahon in the court system? No. Have you, other than a couple of lines, but has there been depositions done? No. My honest opinion is that Vince McMahon's attorneys were getting ready to go to the judge and ask that she be deposed. And if she files, the judge is the one to decide. Her attorneys could be totally against it. And here's another thing. Her attorneys never filed to force Vince McMahon to depose. Why is that? Because if you put her on what's the best way I could put this? If you put her on the oath, you start asking certain questions. Janel, didn't you say this? Didn't you write this? Didn't you do this? Didn't you see this? See, we don't know all the evidence that Vince McMahon has. We don't know all the evidence that Janel Grant's lawyers have. We know some exhibits in the court, but we don't have everything. All right. So if you force, let's say, Janel Grant to depose, a lot of shit about her could come out to surface. And then if it comes across that she was a willing participant, and there's a lot more information to show that this was not someone who was trafficked or a victim. She was just a freak and she loved it, and she just got burned. And because she got burned, she took him to court. If it ends up that way, her cred is damaged for life. I think because that it was getting to that, the fear that additional information would come out about her is what led to them agreeing to go to, it was going to go to arbitration anyway. It was going to arbitration anyway. All she had to do was sit and wait. And when the court says it's going to arbitration, her lawyers could say, we fought, We did everything we could, but unfortunately the court decided arbitration. We have to respect the court system, and we know in our hearts what Vince McMahon did, but we have to go to arbitration. And that's it. That's it. For the rest of her life, she would be looked at as a victim, probably make tons of money that way, speaking engagements, inspiration, role model for a lot of people. But instead, at the last minute, the 11:59 p.m. hour, decides she agrees to pull this and arbitrate privately. No information is coming out. No proof that Vince has. No worries that something could come out in a deposition. Yes, Vince McMahon, here's where his money comes in. Vince McMahon's lawyers, because they have untapped, money available, Vince's lawyers could fucking go after her and make her look like a monster, a greedy monster who wanted it as much as he did. Remember, we said that back in January 2024. She was afraid that her entire cred would be ruined. So yeah, Vince put so much pressure that she couldn't even wait it out. That, okay, we all agree to go to arbitration and privately finish this. No more information comes out. And let me tell you something. If any wrestling sites out there claim that their sources told them this or they heard about this, they are lying to you 1,000%. That is illegal. That is criminal. Anybody out there that does that is full of shit. And you're going to see a lot of damage control. And what do I predict next for the media that absolutely despises Vince? Ring boys. Ring boys. That's suddenly you're going to see all this wild shit magnified, emphasized, reiterated, recreated about ring boys. They're going to make you think that Vince McMahon was in the room with a fucking Polaroid or one of those fucking 110 disposable cameras shooting away when fucking Pat Patterson or anyone else was fucking, playing around with the boys. The only thing they have left is ring boys. Something from 40 years ago. And I'm not saying that ring boys were not abused. I think Mel Phillips was an absolute garbage of a man. But this is all they got left. Get ready. Get ready. Because, again, every step of the way for 2.5 years, we have been 98% right because Vince hasn't been served divorce papers yet. But we predicted John Laurinaitis getting divorced. We predicted Johnny the Rat. Remember, we called Johnny the Rat. We said, this guy's going to turn into a rat. We said that 9 months before he agreed to switch sides. Ring boys, get ready. Get ready. Everything you possibly want to know about ring boys, you will hear it. And they'll focus on the people who are dead. Unfortunately, there are a few ring boys, I believe, that are deceased. There's at least one or two. And those are the ones you'll hear the wildest stories about because it can't be proven, it can't be shot down. It's just like, Hulk Hogan. With all due respect, the Ultimate Warrior dies, or Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh, I just talked to Macho Man 2 days ago, brother. We were going to go fishing, brother. We were friends again, brother. Anytime somebody dies, suddenly, I talked to him yesterday. We were going to do this. We were going to do that. He was a good friend of mine. Everything was squashed. Because you can't come down and say, you're a liar. You're a liar. Ooh, he's a liar. Yeah. So that's my take on it. That is my take on it. To be continued, but not much to be continued because we will not know much of anything going forward. This is going to be done privately. No shit's going to be leaked out because especially when it gets to the courts, if somebody leaks something out, it's going to be interesting. All right. Everybody likes my Macho Man impersonation. I could do a bunch. I was doing Kermit the Frog earlier today. Don't ask me why. Kermit the Frog here. So anyway, before we get into questions, because that's usually what the sit down is about, but I wanted to do this little deep dive, and I just fucking noticed I forgot to hit the record button on the audio. That's okay. That's the awesome thing about YouTube. The audio is recorded, so I could just grab the audio from the stream later on. So, all right. And if you have any additional questions or comments regarding this or any feedback, post it in the comment section, or post a question in a few minutes. I do want to get into something else. That is, quick plug. Check out this week's history show. That is a real picture, everyone. That is not AI. If any of you never saw this moment when Sting had a Rottweiler gnawing at his very heavily toweled hand with remnants of dog food smell on it, so the dog would absolutely make sure to grab on and not let go. That happened this week in wrestling history. I love that picture, man. That is an awesome picture. That's from WCW days. If you thought the dog kennel match with WWF was bad, that is 10 times worse. That is 10 times worse. All right, I want to talk for a moment about King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring. Because if you guys, and again, I'm not trying to be a dick when I say this, if you followed the last 2 weeks of us discussing this tournament, the Final Four are exactly who we said, except for one person, Javon Evans. Javon Evans, I did not see that coming. Javon Evans is the only one that we did not nail. But as far as the women's side goes, okay, it is down. We talked last week. I said, I think Liv Morgan and Charlotte Flair. I think that could be the semifinal match. And then you got Io Sky and Raquel Rodriguez on the opposite side. And remember, this is something that we've pushed for 2 weeks now. We had by the way, this past Thursday on Patreon, Joey924, my former co-host from the Minority Report days from 2003, he joined me. We did 4.5 hours live on Patreon. So if you want to go check it out, patreon.com/Don Tony, or if you're a channel member on YouTube, you can hear it as well. 4.5 hours. But we also talked quite a bit about Night of Champions and SummerSlam, and something that I've been pushing for 2 weeks now, and now it kind of seems to be forming. WWE, the theme for the summer might be friends versus friends. It might be friends versus friends, because on the women's side, remember that little dig that Roxanne Perez said on Raw last week? 2 weeks ago, we said, we could see Raquel Rodriguez challenge Liv Morgan for the women's championship. In fact, if you remember, I thought that could be a match that could happen at WrestleMania. If it was a different scenario. Obviously, Stephanie Vicaire kind of like threw that up in the air a little bit. But the thing is, Raquel Rodriguez is still in this tournament. And when Roxanne last Monday said, I would actually be cool if it was Raquel versus you, because it's guaranteed to stay within the Judgment Day. Gee, you remember when we talked about that WrestleMania time? That, Raquel say, hey, listen, I challenge you. We guarantee that the title will stay within the Judgment Day. And that could very well happen now. Now, here's where we could be getting big changes for SummerSlam. Most of us believe that Io Sky was the front runner to win this. And we also said, here's another friend versus friend. Io Sky would challenge Rhea Ripley. Rhea, it would be an honor to face you. She would be the one to challenge Rhea Ripley, her friend. And you could have a friendly challenge of Io Sky taking on Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. And that, to me, I thought was a given, because Io Sky, if we're all being honest for a minute, a year and a half ago, Io Sky was dead in the water. She was grumpy cat, just very little momentum. And then going into WrestleMania of last year, something changed. And she went into WrestleMania, retained the championship, and she just took off. Everybody, there's a lot of people that already loved her, but the wrestling world fell in love with her 10 times over. And she is arguably one of the most over women in that company. And she's never been the same since Rhea Ripley went to SmackDown and the Kabuki Warriors left. One willingly, one not so willingly. Io Sky's never been the same. Becky Lynch calling her Io Janetti didn't help either. But Io Sky is a woman she's like a dog that was put in a kennel. She was like she was a grumpy cat. Now she was a happy cat, but that cat was put in a kennel, and there's nobody to take her home. And I think Io Sky challenging Rhea Ripley would give her a good storyline for the next month plus. So I think that absolutely could happen. Problem is that Rhea Ripley appears to have suffered a knee injury. The question right now is, how serious is the knee injury? If it's just minor and she can work for SummerSlam, Io Sky is the one likely to win this tournament. If it appears that Rhea Ripley is a no-go for SummerSlam, then Raquel Rodriguez is the likely person to win Queen of the Ring. I think Saudi Arabia and WWE would love to crown Io Sky as Queen of the Ring, but they may be forced to give it to Raquel Rodriguez if Rhea Ripley cannot compete. And it's interesting because they won't reveal that Rhea cannot compete yet, because the idea if Raquel Rodriguez wins Queen of the Ring, you still want the suspension of disbelief that, oh, Liv would think automatically she's going to challenge SmackDown. She's going to challenge the WWE Women's Champion, or the women's WWE Women's Champion. So if it's still Rhea, the storyline is that Liv will automatically expect Raquel to win Rhea's title, and then the Judgment Day have all the women's gold. See? But if Rhea is a no-go, eventually that's going to have to come out, and then Raquel wants to challenge Liv. And you have friends facing each other. So now you got Io and Rhea and Raquel and Liv. Friends versus friends. And there's another one. There's another one that we have to talk about. I don't give a fuck that 45,000 dislikes compared to 8,000 likes on YouTube. I don't give a rat's ass that it's getting 80% negative responses, and that is Jey Uso advancing in the King of the Ring tournament. I don't give a rat. You see people losing their stuff. Some of my friends that are podcasters are out there literally taking diarrhea shits on the show, on their shows. Jey Uso, what the fuck? Jey Uso, what the fuck? Cody versus Jey Uso. Friend versus friend. Again, the theme going into the summer could be friend versus friend. I don't want Jey Uso in the tournament. I don't even want Jey Uso sometimes on my television. We have been very vocal about the negativity with Jey Uso. My God, all you got to do is check out the last 2 weeks of the history show. You revisit Jey Uso beating Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship last year. Within a month. And it's wild because on TV, they would convince you that Jey Uso was the most over person next to Cody Rhodes. But within a month, WWE Creative decided we got to take the belt off of Jey. We're going to put it back on Gunther. But first, we have to do a little bit of shifting. We'll have Jey Uso team up with Cody Rhodes to take on John Cena or Logan Paul at Saturday night's main event. And then, not even that. Then after that, you had Jey Uso that was going to face Logan Paul. The winner of that match was going to take on Gunther in June of last year. And then Jey Uso took on Logan Paul, retained the championship, and as a result, Gunther challenged Jey Uso and beat him and became the champion. And this week, a year ago, when Gunther was celebrating his win, he wanted Jey to come out for a confrontation, and Goldberg came out. And the beginning of the end of Goldberg started this week, a year ago. So Jey Uso, a lot of smoke and mirrors. Without a doubt, one of the most popular guys, especially for the live crowd. Definitely a good guy, definitely a popular guy. I think the reason why people started to go against him was because he turned into so much of a gimmick more than anything else. It's definitely a fun time to go see him live and in person. But you remember not too long ago, and I still have the clip. If someone wants to bribe me or push me, I'll fucking play it next week. I got a clip of Jey Uso from 2020 and a clip from 2025, and he says the same fucking thing. He says the same thing. He doubted me. You doubted me. Everybody doubted me. Everybody's against me. That's kind of what they were doing. So Jey Uso challenging Cody Rhodes for the championship. That's if Cody Rhodes retains. Now, obviously, Sami Zayn is going to screw. Let's put that on the screen. Obviously, Sami Zayn is going to screw with the Gunther Cody Rhodes match next week, and that will likely turn into a three-way. Don't think it'll happen as early as fucking Saudi Arabia, Night of Champions, but anything is possible. Anything is possible. But now we got the final four: Obafemi, Dominic Mysterio, Javon Evans, and Jey Uso. You guys remember 2 weeks ago, I said, I'd like to see Obafemi and Dominic go at it. Tomorrow's Raw will not be a good night for the Judgment Day, with the exception of possibly one. If if Rhea Ripley could still work SummerSlam, it will be an awful night for the judge. Well, this week, because not every match is happening on Raw. You got matches happening on SmackDown. But there ain't no way that Dominic Mysterio is going to King of the Ring final in Saudi Arabia. And in my honest opinion, Javon Evans is no way, shape, or form going to King of the Ring finals in Saudi Arabia. It's going to come down to Oba Femi versus Jey Uso to determine who wins King of the Ring and who goes on to challenge a champion at SummerSlam. Remember this. Remember this. This more than likely is going to have a SmackDown winner. Why? Or let me rephrase that. Whoever wins, the intention is to challenge Cody Rhodes. Why? Because that means Roman Reigns has no opponent for SummerSlam. So when Seth Rollins, because Seth Rollins was my pick to go to the next round, Javon Evans ended up winning. But I also realized that, Seth Rollins doesn't need to win King of the Ring. He could still face Roman at SummerSlam. Roman will have no opponent at SummerSlam. The big question that we have right now is, does Roman end up getting involved in a six-man tag with some bullshit with the MFTs, or does Roman defend his championship? My gut feeling is it's SummerSlam. It's 2 nights. They're going to charge some pretty damn high money for it. I think Roman will be defending his championship at SummerSlam. Seth Rollins could still challenge Roman at SummerSlam. So what do I think is going to happen? And tomorrow we are going to do predictions. But I'm predicting this. I'm predicting that Brock Lesnar, you've heard me say it for 2 weeks now, Brock Lesnar will show up in Saudi Arabia because he is Saudi Arabia's, prized boy. He will cost Obafemi the victory. Jey Uso will win King of the Ring. And Jey Uso is going to insist that Jacob Fatu crowns Jey Uso. And I think that would just be even more interesting because we know that Jacob Fatu and Jey Uso do not get along. I know a lot of people were putting posters up of Roman Reigns giving the crown to Jey. No. Jey has got to be ultimate dickhead over here, and he's got his no. Jacob, you we're bloodline. We're bloodline. You acknowledged me, Jacob. You need to acknowledge Jey. We need to be a cohesive unit. You need to put the crown on Jey's head. That's what I think is going to happen. So that's a little preview of tomorrow's predictions. But one thing is for certain. Friends versus friends is going to be part of the theme for SummerSlam this year. You heard it here first. We've been saying it for weeks, and I do believe it's happening. So, okay. Oh, I have to plug something. Anybody remember when I was doing watch parties? We were doing watch parties every week for AEW, for WWE, and we were doing a lot of giveaways at the time. And someone who used to moderate with me was someone by the name of Rams Fan. My Patreon family, more than anything, knows Rams Fan because he's a member of our Patreon family and a big supporter of Kevin and I over the years for a very, very long time. He actually has his own podcast on YouTube now. It's called the SmackDown Soup du Jour. Him and Jeff Uso. I don't know if he's related to Jey, but he's not a pain in the ass like some of the Fatu family out there. So Rams fan and Jeff Uso, if you guys want to check it out, go check out YouTube, look up SmackDown Friendos Soup du Jour. Just Soup du Jour. Soup du Jour. So very, very cool. So I have not checked it out yet. Things have been a little bit crazy here. Obviously, you guys know what's been going on. It's been pretty wild over here. So, yeah, very, very cool, man. And some of the people in the chat room are very, very much aware of who Rams fan is and is shouting him out. So go check it out. And I'll be checking it out. I'll give my honest take on it. I'm pretty straight up with what I say. And I don't criticize or give, opinions to just be an ass. If I feel that something, I'll give a little, suggestion. I'll put something in the suggestion box. But I'll tell you this much. I remember the watch parties. Rams fan has got a voice. Got an awesome voice for talking. Listen, I don't talk to Mish, obviously. Our friendship soured several years ago. But I think we all agree, like, Mish should be like a voice that you hear on television commercials. Some people just have that voice that they could be selling anything from fucking Pop-Tarts to cars. Rams fan has got one of those voices, too. And he's very knowledgeable in wrestling also. So definitely go check him out. I think you'll appreciate it. So, yeah, and he is very good people. Very good people. All right, let's get into your questions. How long we've gone so far? We started at like 8:07. So we're only an hour and 10 minutes. So we still got about 50 minutes. We got plenty of time. So here's what we're going to do to wrap up this show. We're still going to go another hour. Any questions you have, post it in the chat. If I do answer something, just wait a little bit before you post another one. If you have a comment you want me to share, post it too. Anybody that sends a super shout out, obviously I bring it to the front of the line. It's only fair because you help us grow and pay the bills because this shit is quite costly in 2026. And for all our channel members, obviously, you don't need to ask. You are acknowledged. Always. So, and I see quite a few of you hanging out tonight, more than usual. So, Bobby Means, if Jey wins King of the Ring, the nuclear heat from the IWC is going to be rough. JD from New York said, expect an epic rant like no other. See, here's the thing, and I say this with all due respect. I don't want to see Jey Uso and the King of the Ring winner. But here's, you got to understand, it's Saudi Arabia, first and foremost. Saudi Arabia, there's going to be some special circumstances. It's always that way. The second thing is you have to have somebody from the bloodline working in Saudi Arabia. And not only that, Cody Rhodes, many people believe, is just bland as fuck as champion right now. No, he's not turning heel. We have beaten that to death for over a year now. People think, oh, remember with the John Cena stuff? Remember with Sami Zayn? Not now, but a year ago. Some of the other, you see, that's the sign. Cody, he's turning heel. You heard it here first. Unpopular opinion. It's happening. No, it's not, morons. Look at Fanatics. Look at the merchandise sales. People paying fucking $20,000 to hang out on a bus for an hour. Cody Rhodes is the number one merchandise seller. Danhausen's getting up there, but he's the number one guy for that company. He's a role model representative. He wears the suit and tie. Fucking his manicures have manicures. He is just the number one person. You are not. You look at those foreign tours and you see all those little kids wearing the fucking stuff and he's doing the selfies and he is beloved. He is beloved. But his championship run is fucking bland. They did so much of the dusty run leading up to Cody finishing his story. That's why so many people got it wrong with the Roman versus Cody. Rock is here to fuck it up. No, he wasn't. But the thing is, Dusty never did good as World Heavyweight Champion. Even the NWA in the early 80s realized, wow, Dusty is money chasing a title. But now he's the champion. What do we do now? All right, he has one title defense. And Dusty Rhodes held the NWA World Heavyweight Championship 3 times. 3 times. His total reign in 3 different runs combined is about 2 months. When you hear this nonsense that, oh, Dusty, they were going to put the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship on Dusty Rhodes. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. Dusty was a special attraction. It always was a special attraction. Sure, they want to rewrite history a little bit, baby, because, it helps Cody, because Cody was not going to, have a short run either. That's not what the plans were. But I remember watching CBS and Warner Wolf Plays of the Week. And Dusty Rhodes would always come in and do some comedy matches and novelty. He had a nice feud with superstar Billy Graham. Never considered to be the centerpiece. Oh, if Hulk Hogan didn't come in, Dusty Rhodes would have the reins. What are you, nuts? That was never the case. That's, armchair quarterbacking 30 years later. No, that wasn't the case. Dusty Rhodes was money chasing the title. In this day and age, you get to a certain extent with someone chasing a title, but at some point they do become champion and they want Cody to remain champion. Problem is, they built up Cody so fucking strong that it only took John Cena and the Rapper, if we're being honest, and The Rock, to a certain extent, to be the ones to kind of like help Cody lose his title. If Cody remains champion going into SummerSlam, the only way you're going to spice it up is have friend versus friend. I love JD, and JD is smart. I will not throw any shade on him whatsoever. But I'll say this. I don't like Jey Uso as King of the Ring winner. He doesn't like Jey Uso as King of the Ring winner. But we also need to understand a little bit why it's happening. The idea is to, in my opinion, is spicing up Cody Rhodes, because now Cody is facing a friend. He's facing a friend. And that is going to be intriguing for everyday casual viewers. I don't want to see it. I want to make this clear. I do not have any interest in seeing Jey Uso versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. But I have to acknowledge it because it sure feels like this is where they could go with this. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Does anybody think Javon Evans is going to the King of the Ring finals? I don't feel that. Javon Evans put up a good fight. Listen, I personally think Brock Lesnar absolutely is going to ruin Obafemi's chance. You have to do it at SummerSlam. Oba, Brock 3. Has to happen. That was another one. I watched the clip with Conrad and Eric Bischoff. He thinks that the Brock Oba thing makes absolutely no sense. What are you talking about? People forget what the story was. Obafemi came out. Excuse me, I'll even go one step backward further. Brock Lesnar came out, the road to WrestleMania. Open challenge. Remember Paul Heyman? Brock Lesnar, open challenge. Anybody wants to step up, open challenge, for WrestleMania. Oba stood up within 1 week. We thought it was going to last 4 weeks on TV. We thought we would see Tozawa come out, try to be this tough guy and fail. But 1 week it took. And Brock Lesnar's open challenge was answered by Obafemi for WrestleMania. So what happens? People seem to forget. Penta was doing his open challenge for the Intercontinental Championship. Oba versus Penta is still in the cards. What happened? Penta stopped doing open challenges because at the time he stopped doing open challenges, Obafemi became a Raw roster member. When Penta stopped the open challenges, Oba went and cut a promo on Raw and said, someone stop the open challenges. The Woolah. I will start an open challenge. Anybody wants to face the Woolah? So what happens? What did we say the first guy was going to be? Otis. And who came out? Otis. Within a week after Otis, who answered Oba's open challenge? Brock Lesnar. Remember that. Oba answered Brock's open challenge. Brock answered Oba's open challenge. That's why we're getting 3. Yes, he took his shoes off. Yes, he took his gloves off. Yes, we all thought he was retiring. But again, you would think Eric Bischoff, smart businessman, executive, would turn around and say, well, this is WWE handling Brock Lesnar's contract differently in the future. Up until now, so-and-so reports, PW Insider, I'm not throwing shade on, PW Insider reports that Brock Lesnar has 19 months left on his contract. Why are they paying him all this money and they're not using him? So now the idea is, okay, since we don't know when we're going to use Brock again, we'll say he's retired. And if we really need him for like WrestleMania, or if we need him for a SummerSlam, or if we need him for Saudi Arabia, I felt like, I'm still retired, but I just felt like coming back. I felt like fucking with someone. So that's the way of not expecting, Brock has not been seen in 7 months. Maybe there's a falling out. Maybe there's a contract dispute. Maybe they told him to take a 50% pay cut. Doesn't it kind of sound familiar with the bullshit we heard last week with CM Punk? All nonsense. All nonsense. Where's Drew? Where's Stephanie Vicaire? Where's Randy Orton? But CM Punk, heat from the fan at the phone. Heat with AJ's booking. Heat with creative. Maybe 50% pay cut. I was like, man, our fucking website's not getting a lot of attention. How can we generate some views? Fuck the credibility. Let's just come up with something. My sources tell me CM Punk might have some issues. Bullshit. CM Punk is jacking himself up to a monster in the gym. Contrary to what Ryan Nemeth says, I don't believe he's doing roids. But if you're halfway to your built like a machine, coming back in insane shape, you don't have WWE say, listen, the IWC is getting a little impatient. They think you had a falling out with us. We need you back on TV. Yeah, but, my arms are just like 17-inch pythons. I want them like 28% pain. They're only like this right now. I want them like this. No, we need you back on TV just to shut him up. No, if he is getting to a point, you're going to wait and get to that point. Plus, you want him back on TV so he could be like LA Knight? You want him back on TV? LA Knight's been it's not his fault. He's been a goof the last couple of weeks. They're trying to convince us his storyline that LA Knight thinks that Adam Pearce is in the back pocket for Roman Reigns. What? Adam Pearce is talking like this, and he's going like this. Ooh. You see, you're doing the ones. It's so stupid. Even somebody brain dead in the hospital would turn around and say, that's fucking stupid. You want CM? No, if you could have CM Punk maybe challenge Cody Rhodes later on, you don't bring him back early. And then what's he going to do when he's back? Oh, I'm back. Let me fight Royce Keys this week. And next week I can fight Dazawa. Oh, and Chad Gable is back, so I can fight Chad Gable. And then, wow, he's back a month, and really, where's this going? So you want him back with a certain direction planned. Right now, he's not in the cards. I think Stephanie Vicaire is on the verge of a return, and they may have to have Stephanie Vicaire fuck with Liv Morgan right at the beginning, even if it's just for a short period of time. Stephanie Vicaire, when she returns, common sense would tell you first person that she's got to get pissed off at is Liv because of what happened at Mania. So, and then you could shift it to other people. So I'm not against Jey Uso. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to see Jey Uso win King of the Ring. But if this is the only way to spicing up Cody Rhodes, friend versus friend for the championship at SummerSlam, for the casual wrestling fans, the ones that are paying for the tickets, that's what that's for. So if it happens and JD is angry about it, best thing I would say is, JD, let's go make coffee during that match. There'll be so many other matches to be on. We could just use that for our bathroom break. But I think it's being designed for friend versus friend. We'll see. Maybe Javon Evans ends up winning it after all. Maybe Oba wins it after all. And then we don't have to worry about it. So, all right. Couple of super shout outs, if you don't mind. Lost but Found, he thinks it's going to be a good parade on Thursday. I hope the weather is good. I mean, I don't like doing weather early, but hey, Siri, what's the weather for Thursday? Hey, Siri, what's the weather for Thursday?
Expect rain on Thursday.
Right now, it's rain and 82 degrees on Thursday. You would think they would check the weather first, right? I don't know. Listen, I know quite a few people that are going to the parade. Some people ask me, right, you going to the parade? No. I got to work. I'll watch it from home. So, but yeah, I do believe it. It'll be an awesome parade. I tell you, like I said, I've seen so many championships over the years. I have never seen one with this kind of fan base. I mean, 2001, because of 9/11, like the country got behind New York and it came down to the Diamondbacks versus the Yankees in the World Series. And it was extra love the Yankees way. I mean, even the Red Sox, them having a game in Boston, and Boston fans were very, very respectful. But, you know, they didn't win the World Series, obviously, in 01, but in all my years, I don't recall ever, even the Giants, I don't recall ever that kind of a response. And I think it's just, you know what I think it is too? And I don't want to turn this into a society thing. You go back to 86, there was no internet. You go back to 90, there was no internet. 77 and 78, there was no internet. You know, like you start, even in the early 2000s, internet really wasn't what it is now. So a lot of us are home every day, every night. For a lot of you out there, what did you do last night? What did you do Friday night? Did you go out and about? You know, I guarantee you for a majority of us out there, we stay home now 10 times more than we did 10 years ago. And it's not because we just got older. It's because our world is focused around phones and computers now. You socialize through the computer and the phone. You do shows, you watch stuff. Everything is at your hand. So this, you have people going out and getting out, and probably, you know, very rare that they even get to have an opportunity like this, let alone have a championship in the process. So very, very cool, man. Very cool. Swabby Sean says he lives in Brooklyn. The weather says it's going to be 86 on Thursday with a possible thunderstorm. I got to be honest with you. Fuck Siri from now on, man. Remember 2 weeks ago, Siri with the stupid shit? I forget Siri. No more Siri. No more Siri. Siri, I'm going to change the setting that if I say, hey, Siri, it's not going to answer. And I'll start yelling at it like, hey, stupid, you told me not to answer you anymore. Siri's going to get cut out of the family. But thank you, my friend. He also says, how big of a pop will Danhausen get? I think Danhausen will be in the parade. I think he absolutely will be in the parade. There will be some, I don't want to use boats, but there'll be some motor vehicles going by with people close to it. Spike Lee is going to be on one of those. My God, Spike Lee, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of his, but his loyal, it's funny because he started going to the Garden and became a season ticket holder in 85. That is 1 year after I started watching the Knicks. The Knicks in 84, 85, started to get a buzz here. And I was too young to really pay attention to the Knicks in the late 70s. I remember like some players, I think they had like Rory Sparrow and others, but I never watched it. But in 84, 85 is when I really started to follow it. And that guy has been the greatest fan and supporter of the Knicks. Never wavered, even in the dark years. So he will be on a fucking boat, on one of those boats, as we call them. Danhausen will be too. Without a doubt, Danhausen. And listen, you know, I saw some people like, oh, AEW failed with Danhausen. Look at what the WWE is doing. Listen, you look over the years, there's never been somebody like this that is turned into a mascot that the fucking whole world has embraced outside of professional wrestling. This is such an abnormality or anomaly, whatever you want to call it. There's no way AEW could, or anyone else could have looked at Danhausen and say, holy shit, that guy could be fucking pushing baseball and football and hockey and soccer and this and that. Nobody in their wildest dreams would have ever envisioned. I guarantee you so many people would have been like, fuck is this? Was it Halloween? He's got face paint on, with a cape. What was he, a vampire? Like, what is this? Like, it's like satire. It's a goof. A lot of people in the outside world look at that and say, what the hell is this? This is something you've never seen before. I don't even think WWE in their wildest dreams ever thought it would turn into this, but it has. He has been an advertisement piece for WWE, and I guarantee you Danhausen's salary is gotta be low. I mean, merchandise obviously is gonna make him a millionaire 10 times over, but his salary is not. He's not getting fucking main event salary, no matter what he's doing. And who knows how long this lasts. Just imagine if the Knicks would have lost this finals. Danhausen's credibility would have been flushed down the toilet. This was a roll of the dice. A hell of a lot more than you think. This was very, very risky to get this deep. And if I'm WWE, because all this is dictated by WWE, if I'm WWE, you got to be very careful using Danhausen in the future. Because if he uncurses the Yankees and they bomb, he uncurses the Mets and they bomb, he uncurses this and they fail, people are like, come on, man. Now we know he's not. I guarantee you Jalen Brunson and everyone else was not turning around and Danhausen uncursed us. We got to deliver. This was a big risk and it worked. Now you got to be very, very safe going forward. You got to be very safe. But I have to admit, it's been fun watching his involvement. It's fun to see people outside of wrestling embracing it. It shows you that you can he's like a mascot. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Do we all agree that Danhausen is the official mascot for the WWE? I mean, the Mets have Mr. Met. Phillies used to have the Fanatic. I don't know if he's still around. Like, Danhausen is the official mascot for the WWE. And he's very entertaining and very easy to impersonate. You are cussed. Alrighty. Casualties of gaming. Grant was promised money and he stopped paying her. Absolutely right. In my mind, it's simply, she's owed money, so pay her. Vince's biggest mistake was cutting the money off. Vince obviously has a huge ego. And when Vince, once they found out, WWE, about this deal, obviously there was more to it and there's allegations. Listen, think about this. Something I didn't even say before, but think about this. Janel Grant issued a statement a week ago about emails and things leaking and this and that. Why would you put that out? And then a week later settle with the monster? Why would you do that? I think there's definite fear that something was going to come out that would have totally made this appear differently. And they're like, okay, tell Vince's attorneys we'll settle. We'll go to arbitration privately. This was their way of saying, okay, we let's just go to arbitration and all the communication stops. All it's done. Stop anything else from coming out. Vince should have sucked it up. Even if Janel Grant emailed him 4 years ago and said, hey, scumbag, after I get the other $2 million, I'm going to fucking out you. I'm going to fucking blackmail you. I'm going to tell the world what you fucking did. I'm going to post videos, emails, all this other stuff. I'm going to ruin your fucking life. I'm going to put you 6 feet under. And Vince is like, oh yeah, I'm going to stop paying you. He should have just fucking paid her anyway. Give her the $2 million left and be done with it. And if she dared to leak anything out she wasn't supposed to, you sue her ass. But Vince, because of his ego, he stopped the payments. She went to a lawyer, and the lawyer said, let's go after this fucking guy. And we'll use his entire negative history as our ammunition. The problem is, at the end of the day, Judge doesn't give a fuck about Vince and Rita Chatterton. The judge does not give a fuck about Vince McMahon and Tanzabar. The judge does not give a fuck about Vince McMahon and Christy Hemme. The judge does not give a fuck about Vince McMahon and the allegations with other things, Ring Boys. At the end of the day, You look at this, contract dispute. And if the attorney is going to keep throwing shade Vince's way, Vince has untapped money. Vince is going to die not too far from now because of just age. I'm not wishing death, but, the guy is, 80? I mean, we don't know how long he's going to live, but it's not going to be that much more. So what is he going to do with his money? He's going to leave it to family, obviously. But the thing is that while he's alive, if he's got to spend fucking $10 million to fucking ruin this woman who's trying to ruin him, he will do everything he can. He can't go after the lawyers. So he'll take it out on Janel Grant. So he is going to do whatever is necessary. Absolutely. But, again, this was always a contract dispute. And Janel Grant's defense, even though they were plaintiffs, their defense from day one was that everything that she agreed to accept from Vince, she wasn't in the right frame of mind. She was under the influence of weird medicinal voodoo drugs. She didn't know what she was doing. Do you want to believe that? Absolutely. Go ahead. I'm not discounting that, but that was the only defense. You see how much she got. She was willing, I'll take it. And then the minute Vince says, I'm not giving you no more, but you owe me $2 million. I'm not giving you no more. She went right to a lawyer and she got one of the meanest, biggest, baddest women lawyers in the Northeast. And it was a pleasure for her to go after Vince, especially you look at the political affiliation. Yeah, at the end of the day, this is a contract dispute. At the end of the day, she agreed to settle with the devil. She spit in the face. I'm sorry the way I said it on X, but it's true. She took a shit on all the victims. She took a shit on the head of every victim that she was fighting for. For all the women that they said that were waiting to come out to, reveal what Vince did to them. For all the victims that have been abused by other employers, by billionaires and millionaires, and what she said in Connecticut a couple of months ago, she literally bent over and took a massive dump on every victim. The only way she saves face is if she donates a big portion of that money that comes in to those causes. She does that, she will save face. I'd be shocked if she does. So, thank you for that. Jim Kahn says Danhausen coming to the WWE and becoming this big of a star he did not see. I don't want to see Danhausen win a belt. I would kind of put that in Nicholas territory. So if this is how you use Danhausen, is there anything wrong with it? Honestly. I mean, there's some people out there that like Danhausen in the ring. There's some people out there that want to see Danhausen win a championship. I'm not against it if the guy puts on decent matches and he's like an underdog, but he actually could work, so you root for the underdog. I mean, I'll get behind that. But if it's always going to be comedy, a little bit of special effects and this and that, let them keep doing what they're doing. WWE is getting so much additional attention because of him. They're getting money because of him. They're getting merchandise sales because of him. And not only that, you're getting young fans that are, like I said it the day he was signed. You can see little kids with the face paint on. WWE has to sell makeup kits for Danhausen or masks or something. They are making quite a bit. And I don't criticize AEW because we've never seen something like this before. We've never seen something like this before. And it's a fun little ride. How long it lasts, that's the question. So, Dayhawk, should Rikishi get involved in Bloodline 2.0? No. People were teasing that when Jay and Jimmy had the feud leading up to Mania, which sucked. Rikishi, it's funny, if you check out Rikishi's podcast, he says he wants to be involved with this. Like, my phone is, ready. Anybody wants to call me. I think at the end of the day, though, I don't think, and I'm not saying this negatively, I don't think WWE fans give a fuck about Rikishi like we did back in the 90s and the 2000s. I don't think fans care these days. It kind of reminds me when Brian Christopher, God rest his soul, came back and got involved in the Jerry Lawler, Michael Cole storyline. I'll never forget when he came out and he's doing his dance down the rampway and there was no reaction whatsoever. None. Zero. And the fans did not care at all. Nobody, the casual wrestling fan does not care that someone in their, 60s comes back, and what does he do? He cuts a promo on Solo? Like, for what? Like, where is this? Like, why? He's the de facto elder now? That Sika is passed and Alpha is passed? Like, who's the elder? Oh, Kishi. So we'll make him the elder. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, if Jey wins King of the Ring, I don't want him to walk down the rampway like Roman did that time, and you have Alpha and Sika standing on the very end with the Ula Fala on, acknowledging Roman. Like, I don't want Jey win King of the Ring, walk down the rampway, and here's Rikishi with the crown. I crown my son. No, I don't want to see that. I like Rikishi. I've always liked Rikishi. Even when he did it for The Rock. But the thing is, fans today, I don't think would give a rat's ass if Rikishi got involved. None. I really don't think so. And it's nothing against Rikishi. I think deep down inside, he'd probably agree. A lot of wrestling fans today wouldn't really care all that much. You look at his views on his podcast, I mean, the only time they explode is when he fucking says, Jey, they do you dirty, brother. You should go to AEW, brother. They do you dirty, brother. Jimmy, brother. You see what they're doing to you, brother. When he acts and says dumb shit, what did he say 2 years ago? Solo. By the end of 2024, Solo will be the world champion, Solo. Like when he says stuff that just like, all right, you're proud of your family, you get it. But when he says, just when he complains like he does, or he says just some outrageous stuff, that's when it gets attention. I don't want to see that. Nope. No. Roderick Howard, can I see some sort of wrinkle thrown in King of the Ring like Javon getting attacked and written out of the tournament, leading to a return of Punk and Orton, and they win King of the Ring to challenge Cody? No. I don't think Javon Evans is going to Saudi Arabia. He's extremely talented. He's a future champion. There's no doubt about it. I love, I don't think he's too much or too little urban, as someone stupidly said. Javon Evans is awesome. But to have him written off, because Rusev tacked him, or like, it's just not needed. And you shouldn't have a tournament go this far just for somebody to get laid out. People want to see Oba beat the shit out of Dominic tomorrow. And Oba, like I said, I think Oba absolutely should have his King of the Ring ruined because of Brock Lesnar. The only thing is, how do you do it in Saudi Arabia? You got to do a ref bump, I would think, because you're not going to have a King of the Ring crown because of a disqualification. So something out of the ordinary is going to have to happen. No, I just feel with Saudi Arabia, you want, the big marquee names, and with all due respect, Jey Uso is a marquee name. It's a marquee name, especially in Saudi Arabia. I think that's why I think there's a good chance he will go to Saudi Arabia. Javon Evans will not. If Night of Champions would have happened somewhere else, yeah, I could see the scenario. Even Javon Evans getting taken out. But remember, that match is happening on Raw and SmackDown for the regular WWE fans. So, you saw the pop that Javon Evans got last week. It was unexpected. So you want to ride that momentum, and Javon Evans will come this close to winning, but he doesn't. And I don't think you benefit from having him have an unexpected victory that was extremely over just to have him attacked the following week. I just think that would really come off sour. I don't see it. Thank you, Chaos. I agree with you, sir. Everyone, if you're enjoying this episode, take a moment, smash a thumbs up. Doesn't cost anything. I know you don't normally hear me always say, like, subscribe. Trust me, I would fucking love it by the end of next year if we get to 50,000 subscribers. It'd be nice after all these years to have a fucking great plaque back there. I mean, I literally took my wife's picture from off of the back to make room for a plaque, a YouTube plaque, but I know it's not happening this year, but yeah, hit the like button, man, because that sends a message to YouTube that, yeah, you're having a good time right now, you're enjoying the show, it's free, so you recommend it to others, and maybe they'll check it out as well. So thank you if you do that. And if you don't do that, I won't curse you, but I will curse you. You just won't know about it. I'm kidding. All right. Tristan wants to know my thoughts on the Val Venus Choppy PP segment. It's one of my favorite segments of all time. I have the unblurred version of that night. It is available online. Very, very controversial. I can't tell you how many times after that, every time I worked in my dad's deli and someone would say, could you cut up a pepperoni for me? I literally in my head would be choppy pee-pee. It was very wild at the time because, it was obviously trying to play off like the Yakuza, and Val was hitting on the girl. It was just a wild time to be a wrestling fan. It's crazy how they went off TV and the lights went off and you heard screams. Obviously, they want you to think something like that would happen. But the problem is at that time, you also heard about how people handled sexual abuse in other countries. And some countries, that's what they do. In fact, I've always told this story, not always, I've only told it maybe 2-3 times over the years, but I used to be good friends with a indie wrestling girl named Dana Danhausen. Does anybody ever remember Dana? In fact, I would give you a shout out next week. You write in the comments if you remember Dana Danhausen. She was one cool girl. I don't know if she still is around wrestling. I have not talked to her probably in about 15 years, but I used to be good friends with her. I still have like a bunch of photos that she wanted me to sell for her. But we actually hung out a little bit, outside of wrestling. And she used to work at a strip joint in Jersey, and I would go down once in a while she was working. And one time she sends me a video. This is a true story. And if any of you out there still talk to her, bring this up. She'll tell you it's true. She sent me a video, and I thought it was a sexy video of her. And she's like, you want to see this video of me? And I was like, sure. And she sent me a link of a video. I don't know what they used for storage at the time, but I clicked on it and I downloaded it. And when I hit play, I thought I was going to see her naked. And instead, it was a picture, I think, of somebody in Pakistan who obviously was found guilty of some type of sexual assault. And they literally just, let's just put it this way. They literally just did this. Just pretend this is a sword. They literally did this. And it just came right off. And I'm like, why did you send me this? She did that to me at least 2-3 times back then. She sent me a video of somebody getting their pee-pee choppy, like Val Venus. She sent me a video once of, I won't even say what it was. Yeah. Yep. Daniel Price, I agree with you. They could not do that segment today. Yesterday on the History Show, we opened up. I got some really good quality footage of At Home with Dr. D that aired on WWF TV this week in '84, when he threatens to beat the shit out of his wife, he threatens to beat up his kids, and you could never air something like that on TV today. Even that same week, Mr. Wonderful's in the gym, "You fat pig! You fat pig!" Can never do that today. There's so many things you look back, you're like, holy shit, WWE could never do that today. You could never do that choppy. That's it. The networks wouldn't let you do it. It's wild that the USA Network let them do that at the time. So, mid-range, I was absolutely disappointed. I'll tell you another one. She did. I would really get a kick out of any of you out there still talk to her, because she will tell you these are true. She sent me that video that time. It was like a week or two later, and she's like, "I'm sorry that I was just fucking with you and everything." She's like, "Do you really want a video?" And I was like, well, if you want to send one, sure. And I think like 2 weeks later, she's like, "All right," she says, "I'll send you something." Just at that time, it wasn't easy to put a video on the computer. You're talking like 2008, around that time frame, 2010, or maybe, I guess around 2008, probably around that time frame. So, the internet at that time is still very, very slow connections. So she sent me another video, and she's like, "This is not a video of me, but it's one of my friends that works in the strip place." So I click on the video, and this woman is sexy. And I'm looking at this video, and I don't know if she thought she was going to hook me up with her or something, but I'm looking at this video, and it's a very, very sexy video. And like, I'm watching it for about 45 seconds, and it's getting, a little bit more revealing, if we'll say it that way. And then, let me say this the right way. He decided to pull his pants down. It was trans. I thought it was a woman. She sent me a video, and here I am thinking it's a woman. About a minute into the video, slowly pulling the panties down. And then I like, okay, thank you, but no thank you. If that's what floats your boat, totally fine with it. But me, I like my M&Ms without peanuts. So yeah, she sent me a video. She told me it was one. She used to do that shit. She was a bitch, man. If she sees this, no, I can't ask you for videos anymore. I'm married now. But she was a bitch. Dana, I'll look into one of my archives. She did a shoot interview with our video. Let that sink in. Our video. Say what you want about Feinstein, but our video, the one who interviews all the wrestling legends, the shoot interviews, they did a fucking shoot interview with her. And I think the story was that he got laid. That's why he did the shoot interview, so he could sleep with her. I don't know what you all think about Feinstein. Over the years, I've kind of come to realize that I do know that Perverted Justice definitely manipulated those records. At that time, it was the wild, wild west when it comes to, documentation. You didn't have forensic like it is now. A lot of those logs were exaggerated to make something look worse than what it was. I don't know, truthfully, what age Rob Feinstein thought he was going to visit. All I know is that if he had bad intentions, illegal intentions, that scared that motherfucker so straight, he never did anything ever again. So I don't know. I will never know deep down inside who he thought he was meeting and how old that person was. But the thing is, this is 20 years later, and there's been no other incident. So it's a really tough situation. I'm not sticking up for him. Trust me, I vilified that motherfucker. Remember the Home Alone Photoshop I did? Remember the Home Alone cover on the videos where he's like this and you see the house in the background? I put Feinstein's head in the window. I went after him big time. And then you start, hearing things and you start looking into things. And again, it reminds me a little bit of the Vince McMahon, Janel Grant thing. Like, do you want to know the truth, or do you want to know what you want to hear so you could keep a certain viewpoint on something? But I do know that Rob Feinstein liked his women also. All right. He liked his women also. And he did a shoot interview with Dana Damison to, Dana his Damison. So. Yeah, listen, the Feinstein thing was fucked up at that time, but I am so proud of the articles that we did at that time. Because, a lot of people forget this. A lot of people, I'm going to say something now you probably never heard of before. You know Gabe Sapolsky, right? Evolve, he works with WWE. Now, keep in mind, the Feinstein incident happened in 2002? No, it's got to be 04, 05. Yeah, it's got to be like 04, 05. Whatever year it was, maybe someone could check it, maybe even 03, but that year, the year is very important, that time frame, because of this. When Feinstein perverted justice thing came out, he obviously was involved with Ring of Honor at the time. And with Ring of Honor in our video, 2004, Scorpio says, Gabe Sapolsky made a comment and said, this is our 9/11. Now, the fact that 3 years earlier, you have 3,000 people killed and people jumping out of windows 90 floors up, jumping to their death in terrorist attacks. I mean, people got very angry at Stephanie McMahon comparing the the steroid trial and all that stuff. Gabe Sapolsky actually said this is our 9/11. And we crucified him. I'm still blocked. I swear to God, I have apologized over the years. I have said some very, very nice things about Gabe Sapolsky over the years. You guys will remember for many, many years, I used to call him Gabe Sapolak. That's what I would always call him, Gabe Sapolak. I thought he was just, not this pure, genuine guy that everybody believed that he was, especially the way they handled Boogaloo and Lowrider with the XPW thing at that time. But as years went by, I started to realize, it's just a really fucked up time and, people didn't know how to react. And I apologized. He didn't give a shit about my apology. And I've said good things about him over the years, but I'm still blocked. I don't ever expect, that to change. I don't dislike him anymore. But at the time, it was very controversial, especially being a New Yorker and hearing somebody comparing Feinstein and perverted justice. And for Ring of Honor, that's their 9/11. It's like, what are you talking about? How can you compare the two? But don't hold it against them. Again, at that time, it was just a really, really bizarre time. So bizarre. All right. What time are we at? We're almost at 2 hours. We'll start bringing this home. So tomorrow, after Raw, I will be live for the Don Tony Show. We definitely have some more news to get into. I will let you know about the conversation I have with that Connecticut reporter. Tomorrow, between 12 and 1, I expect to talk to her. We're going to talk a little bit about what has transpired in this case over the last week or so. Going to see if she's heard anything and also have a little conversation as far as me, what I think as well. And I truly believe that there's a fear factor with this also. Because again, it makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. I look at this case and trust me, I wanted to know the truth. If Vince McMahon just found a freak, I wanted to know the truth. If Vince trafficked her or abused her or committed crimes or just manipulated her and just totally fucked her up in the head, I want to know the truth. I didn't want to know a certain narrative because I like Vince or I don't like Vince. There's a lot of people who are big supporters of Vince that will say she was a whore, she was this, she was that. You don't know her, and I don't know her. If you ask my honest, deep down gut opinion, I think Vince for years was looking for that freak. Someone who just wanted to just fulfill just not only just a younger, beautiful woman, but to just do anything that he wanted, control, everything like that. And he finally found her. And, I don't know if she was naive. I don't know but I believe she fell under his spell. She absolutely loved being spoiled and showered with gifts. Again, she lived in a condo that was owned by her ex-boyfriend. My mentality is if I have an ex-girlfriend, I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to hang out with her. I sure as hell not going to live in her house. I think that she got spoiled and showered and fell in love with him. And he was not only her lover, he was her father, he was her brother, he was her best friend. And in the end, whether he got bored with her or maybe it got just too risque or maybe to the point that he just, decided, I'm done. Let me move on to someone else. I don't know. We'll never know that story. But I believe that if he would have kept paying her, we would have never had this lawsuit. And Vince could very well still be involved in TKO up to this time, if that was the case. His biggest mistake was stopping the payment. Biggest mistake was stopping the payment. And it sucks because once the Ring Boys case is done, which I think will be done sooner than you think, what's left? What is left? You can't use steroids anymore. Can't use tax anymore. The only thing is some other woman who signed an NDA, and we know who we're talking about, somebody who, with all due respect, blackmailed Vince right before the Saudi Arabia announcement. I'm glad she got paid. She got like $10 million. She deserved it. But let's also be honest that for years and years and years, his abuse was so fucked up that she didn't go after him. She didn't call the cops. She didn't call lawyers. She did nothing. And then right before that Saudi Arabia deal was set, suddenly, if you don't pay me, I'm going to reveal all this. And Vince paid her. Again, that world, we will never understand. I will never understand it. WrestleNomics will never understand it. Fightful, Meltzer, PW Insider, you, me, the neighbor next door, we will never understand that world. But from your Janel Grants to your Anna Nicole Smiths to, bad Lifetime movies and Eyes Wide Shut and fucking, sugar daddies and, women looking for this or men looking for that. That's a world, P. Diddy, we will never, ever truly understand it. That's why I think the problem for some is they looked at Janel Grant and immediately painted a picture about her. Oh, that's not someone that could be that. They probably think that's like, what was that, Little Honeybee or whatever it is? Who's that fucking 300-pound beast that lived down south? That was just like, they probably think that is usually the one who's a freak. Like it's usually like a 300 or 240-pound blonde chick that doesn't take a shower, that has cows in the yard, that fucking smells, and that's someone that would be around 4 guys or 5 guys. Like, nah, not someone that looks like Janel Grant. No. It would be somebody from the hood, a hood rat. She don't look like a hood rat. That can't be her. And I think some people fell in love with what they thought was the perception of her. And I don't think she was a whore. I don't think she was this. I don't know what she was. But that was the problem for too many people out there. And I'm telling you, I would love to play the whole 20 minutes. Now I can, but I know probably half our viewers would leave. But go on my X account, Don Tony D, at Don Tony D. Go watch that 20-minute video. Just keep in mind, we said that 4 days after the court papers came out. If I played you clips 6 months later, 9 months later, you'll hear us repeatedly, this is going to end up in arbitration. This is going to end up in arbitration. It's going to end up in arbitration. Just everything that we said ended up happening. So, and we never had to change our stance because it was never biased. We just wanted to know the truth. That's the problem with too many people out there. It's, okay, I want to know the truth, but that won't get me views. So let me take this stance and let me say this and let me paint this. And again, the idea that Vince McMahon's billions forced her to go to arbitration is nuts. It sounds a good, catchy talking point, but makes absolutely zero sense. There's no fee that you paid the court that decided to put in arbitration. He didn't make an offer that the attorneys couldn't refuse. Something happened because this was going to arbitration anyway. All Janel Grant had to do was wait. It would have gone to arbitration, and she would have looked like a victim that was forced into arbitration. Instead, she comes off just like every other woman. Everything that she stood for, and yes, there'll be websites out there that will spin this, but in the end, she did what everyone else did. She's negotiating a deal with the devil. Multigod, what's up, man? Multigod says, DT, I finally did it. He went solo selling health insurance. It's a big jump, but he's ready. Seems like Sami mega heel leading to a Saudi WrestleMania. You know, it's funny. I just thought of something. This is really too far away. Just a brainstorm idea. Thank you for Daniel. Do you think that Sami could pull it off to be a major heel in the United States? Or, let me rephrase that, be a major heel everywhere else, but a babyface in Saudi Arabia? That look kind of like Bret Hart in 1997. That Sami Zayn, they set it up in a way that he goes to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMania and is cheered out of the fucking building. But everywhere else, especially in the United States, so that's the majority where they perform, he is a heel. Do you think they could pull that off? I don't know if you can, and I'll tell you why. I don't know if WWE wants Saudi Arabia to come off as a heel. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that Canada was a heel when Bret was doing it, but I do remember 1997, and we kind of like shitted on Canada a little bit. If you remember, even when Bret would cut promos and he'd go to Canada, like Canada would cheer him and he would diss the United States and they would cheer that. And it felt like Canada turned heel as well. I don't know if WWE wants Saudi Arabia to be viewed as a heel, especially as we get closer to the 10-year mark of this contract and they're trying to re-up for another 10 years. That would be pretty wild if they did that. Yeah, you could even have him maybe use Canada a little bit more for Sami as a babyface, but kind of like pull back a little bit on Saudi Arabia. I don't know if he could pull it off. But I do think that Sami Zayn as a heel is the best thing for business right now. The idea that Sami couldn't be a heel is ridiculous. If you remember his match, when they involved Jackass at the time, Sami was a heel, and he was so entertaining doing it. We just fell in love with Sami Uso, and that's people still held on to that a little bit. People know deep down inside Sami Zayn is one of the most genuinely good people out there. I mean, don't get me wrong. One of my biggest regrets was getting angry at Sami Zayn during the pandemic. If you remember, I fucking went after Sami Zayn like no other because he was criticizing some Americans and I think, them looking for assistance and this and that, or even just this was during the pandemic and I was like, fuck you. He just took some very vocal stances that, there's people dying. And after, I realized, that it wasn't remotely as severe and, I warmed up and, I think Sami Zayn is genuinely one of the most genuinely good people in wrestling. And even if he turned heel, they know that his heart is still a really, really good person. So we shall see. Daniel Price thinks an idea that Sami wins the title and immediately thereafter Kevin Owens' music hits. It would be very interesting because this would be the first time that Kevin Owens is a babyface and Sami is a heel. If you really think about it, I mean, I get it. Sami was a heel in the bloodline, so to speak, and Kevin Owens was trying to show him the light. I get it. But this is a little bit different. His heel turn now is not even comedic. I mean, I know they did that fucking dumb shit with the, with the goofy fucking, the props and all that with, Little Yachty got involved and all that shit. It's not comedy anymore. Sami Zayn is just coming off as a dick. And I don't think that comedy aspect, like it came out with Jackass, I don't think that's the way you go right now. I think, and I also believe that Sami will not benefit Gunther next week. I think Sami in the end could end up burning both and it turns into a three-way. The question is where. And I don't think I want that at SummerSlam. And I don't even think you could turn it into a four-way. Let's say if Jey Uso wins, and then Jey Uso wants to be added to that match because he wants a shot at Cody. I don't think you do that. It's a hot mess. We'll see where it goes. Roderick says Sami's downward spiral has been one of the best stories, if not the best in WWE TV right now. The gingerbread nonsense, was for a minute. I agree. My problem with everything with Sami and WrestleMania is Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes, listen, I wish Carmelo Hayes was further on the food chain. I think he's still repairable. But I remember last year, the John Cena tournament, he was in it, and he put on an absolute banger. And I remember the media world and the IWC, news articles were written. Podcasters titled it that Carmelo Hayes, WWE is preparing a monster 2026 for Carmelo Hayes. Go Google it. I remember covering it at that time, and I said, are you fucking kidding me? After one match, you think that suddenly WWE Creative had an epiphany? Holy shit, we should have been pushing him more. We're going to give him a monster run. People were writing monster push in 2026. People were betting on it. And I said, better be careful what you say. We're already halfway through 2026. How's that monster year going so far with Carmelo Hayes? I get it. I understand how the hustle works now. You play off of people's emotions. Whether Vince McMahon is a criminal or Carmelo Hayes is going to have a monster year or this is going to happen or this is going to happen or blah, 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 blah. You play off of people's emotions. Whatever is the buzzword at the time. Problem is, 6 months later, we don't forget. And then it's brought up again, and all right, on to the next thing. And then you just add them all up. You see it's wrong. In fact, if you download the history show I put up yesterday, download it just to listen to the final 5 minutes of the episode. This time last year, it's so funny, but this time last year, a bunch of news sites put up predictions of what WrestleMania 42's matches would be. And if I remember correctly, with Sports Illustrated, Yahoo Sports, The Sportster, and might have been What Culture. I think those were the four. Bleacher Report. It was one or the other. And I counted all the matches that they listed. I added them all up. Between the four articles, it was 39 matches that they predicted. Not the outcomes, but we're just predicting what the matches would be at WrestleMania 42. 39 matches. You know how many ended up happening at WrestleMania 42? 0. That's why I put it on the history show. Just to show you that you get these, and one of them, I think it was Sports Illustrated, actually gave us like night 1 and night 2, like 16 matches. Every fucking match did not happen. Every match. It was hilarious. And, Braun Breaker was the only wild card out of all of this because of injury. Everybody else was on that card. It was just, it's funny when you go back and you hear these matches. I think one of them was Becky Lynch and Bayley teaming up as a tag team. And I'm like, where did you get this from? I mean, some of the matches were just fucking hilarious, man. 39 matches predicted, 0 of them happened. So, Benjamin, oh, he's going at it with somebody. Friendly conversation in the chat room. So, for any of you out there that's live right now, that maybe are watching this UFC thing in the background, all I want to know is, was there any, like, controversial shit? Like, were there any disruptors? Was there an attempted hit on anybody? Because that was something last week that people kept asking me about. Like, I'm like, no, this unbelievable security. It's just going to be an outdoor sports event. It's happening on the White House lawn. Whatever, we move on. Yeah, I don't. I'm curious if it rained. The Weather Channel got vilified today because the Weather Channel, hours before the event, they put in giant letters on social media, thunderstorms with lots of mosquitoes expected. And people like, fuck you, man. I don't care if you're Democratic or Republican, but you literally have the Weather Channel trying to convince people not to go. You got to go on their X account and look at it. Giant letters. Like White House weather report, thunderstorms with lots of mosquitoes. I'm like, holy shit, man. I fucking hate this country sometimes, man. Steph, why is it with every feud with Cody, the ref is always the villain? Well, you can't make Cody the villain. Like I compared it to Backlund. Like last week or so, or the week before, I compared it to Backlund. I wouldn't say Bob Backlund 1984, but it's damn sure near it, where you have to have a special circumstance surrounding some high-profile victories. This is their way of just trying to add substance to a story that sucks, if we're being honest. I get it. Sammy wants gold. Gunther wants his gold back. Cody has gold, or Gunther just wants gold, period. Cody has gold. All right, so, how do you milk this for 6 weeks? Because that's the thing, that's my biggest complaint with WWE the last 4 years. This scenic route is nauseating. And you're going to look back at this and realize this shit went on for 7 weeks, 8 weeks, and it could have been done in 3 or 4. So adding this, the referee shit and, Gunther, it's going to take him a whole week to decide, I want Sami as a referee. Like you just, all they're doing is eating weeks. And, a lot of people thought Gunther was going to beat Cody in Italy. Remember, those odds were almost 50-50. You could have gone either way. And Cody retained. Now, just imagine if Gunther does defeat Cody now. I'm not saying it's going to happen next week, but let's just say it does. You literally waited another 3-4 weeks to ultimately do what you should have done in Italy, and that's put the belt on Gunther. If Sami Zayn fucks up this match next week, which I expect it to happen, and let's say it leads to a week or 2 later on, and Gunther ends up winning it after all, you realize it took them 2.5 months to do something that should have happened a month earlier or a month and a half earlier. It's just this scenic route that they keep doing is just ridiculous. And it happens over. Look at Roman Reigns, man. Roman Reigns beat CM Punk in April. We are now 2 months in. And the only thing that Roman has had, Roman was going to, remember the news? Roman is going to be around for the whole summer. We're in the summer, and Roman has now been around for 2 months, 8 fucking weeks, maybe even 9. I don't remember exactly what date it was, but let's say 8 weeks. And outside of fighting Jacob Fatu, what has he done? It's all bloodline. We said this 4 or 5 weeks ago. My biggest fear with Roman Reigns is that a majority of his time that he is back is only going to be around family. And what do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Is there going to be a backstage confrontation with Javon Evans or Obafemi or Ethan Page or Rusev or anybody. Like it's like insulated to just bloodline. Roman returns tomorrow. That's nice. What's next? Jacob, you have to acknowledge Jey. If he wins, you have to acknowledge Jey. Jey, you need to stop going after Jacob. It's like baby shit. Like you realize the whole thing with Jacob, with acknowledging him and all this stuff, this is now 4 weeks later. And what is accomplished in 4 weeks? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You saw, is Jacob Fatu wrestling on TV at all? No. Nothing. Are the Usos trying to get their belts back? No, nothing. Now, Jey, let me go for the other belt. Okay, that's fine. What's Jimmy doing now? Nothing. And then you have LA Knight doing the same thing he did a year ago. Jimmy, Jey, you're in Roman's back pocket. And Jey, better not mess with the family. Better not mess with it. This a year ago. It's the same shit. So I just don't like that you could feel how they're blatantly adding 3-4 weeks unnecessarily. Like you're making people wait so much longer. And then after that, many times the outcome isn't what you wanted. Think about it. You're going to go to SummerSlam, and you could very well end up having Jey Uso take on Cody Rhodes. And then you realize, holy shit, we just wasted 2 months of Gunther, Sami Zayn, and think about the Sami Zayn factor of this. Sami and Jey, aren't they tight? Now, just imagine, with Sami's involved, now Jay's getting the title shot against Cody. And now you could add that little extra aspect of it where Jey shows up on SmackDown and now he interacts with Sami a little bit. And now Sami's being a little bit of a dick. It's just, you realize they wasted 2 months, 2.5 months. And all we got, it's like I drove 500 miles and all I have to show for it is this pen. It's like we wasted 2.5 months and all I have to show for it is Jey Uso taking on Cody Rhodes. So, all right, we're going to wrap this up in 5 minutes. All right. Paul says, only with a bit of shit. Think if Cody is going to take time off. Cody's too much of a baller. He hogs not to have the spotlight on him. Oh, I don't think Cody Rhodes is taking time off. The only reason why Cody would take time off is do a movie. Do a movie or something. I don't see him taking time off. He's the number one guy in that company. I mean, that's why, again, I'm not bringing up Roman, Cody, finishing the story, Rock, fuck the... What I am saying is just always in the back of your mind. Always in the back of your mind, remember 2 things about Cody Rhodes. Number one, he is very old school. Very old school in his mindset with wrestling. The second thing is that he is very, very loyal to his employer. He is extremely loyal to WWE and TKO. All right. He is not one of these renegades. He's not one of these that is going to just go against authority. He is the ultimate corporate shill. He is the ultimate corporate boy. You look at WWE's entire roster. I mean, he is the number one corporate shill for that company. Never forget that. Since day one, he is their corporate guy. He is the one that could ultimately end up on a board of directors or fucking Triple H's position or something high up years from now. He is the ultimate person that you want on your side. That's why when you think back to previous storylines, you actually think that Cody's going to go into business for himself and go against what TKO ordered or Triple H ordered or Nick Khan or WWE or anything else. Anyone in their right mind think that Cody would do that for the people? CM Punk, yes, I could see that in 2014. Not Cody Rhodes in 2022, 2023, 2024, 23, 4, 5, and 6. No. Impossible. He is the ultimate corporate shill. And you're not going to take time off for someone like that. unless there is a movie or an injury, something. You're not. He is the number one guy. And again, you look at those videos overseas, those house shows, you see the way these people read. Those are the ones putting the money in the company. I could scream at the top of my lungs. I could bitch. I could complain. JD could bitch and complain. Jason could bitch and complain. Joe Cronin could bitch and complain. You could bitch and complain. Ramsey could bitch and complain. Busted Open could bitch and complain. At the end of the day, none of us, not even Busted Open, none of us are putting money in WWE's pockets for the most part. You know, you get an ESPN subscription, WWE's already got their money. Whether I subscribe to ESPN or not, WWE got their money from ESPN. We're not the ones putting the money in the pocket. So they're concerned about the ones who do put the money in the pocket. And Cody is that guy. Iconic thinks Cody is overhyped. His matches are almost a John Cena where it's the same bloody moves. He does have the same moveset. It's obviously not similar to John. John was, it was more like cartoonish. Cody is not cartoonish, but yeah. I mean, you kind of starting to get this, and you'll probably appreciate this. Remember the old phrase, you've seen one Ric Flair match, you've seen them all? You're starting to feel that way with Cody Rhodes. You see one Cody Rhodes match, you've seen them all. It does feel very, very similar. That's why you don't see many Cody Rhodes 4.5, 5-star matches. Still many people believe that his match with Dustin might be, and maybe even one with Seth Rollins, that might have been the peak as far as what he does. His most important moments are storyline related, not necessarily in-ring related. Cody works great in the ring. Cody does enough of what is required of him, but he doesn't need to he doesn't need to fucking put a flaming table, go through that anymore. He doesn't need to do some of the things he did in AEW. So, but it is getting to the point where you almost could be like, you see one Cody match, you've seen them all. .316 ML Curley's hotline from Detroit. That guy was, what do they say now? They say it nicely. He is a PDF file. You know what a PDF is. You open that up with Adobe, I think. They don't say the P-E-D-O word. So people say he's a PDF file. That's how we use it on the show. He was a PDF file. He got arrested many, many years ago. I used to call his hotline when I was younger. He was not an inspiration for me to become a hotline guy. Dominic Valente, who still does his hotline. In fact, on Patreon Thursday, Joey924 and I had an amazing moment. We actually called Dominic Valente's wrestling hotline, and he still does one to this day. In fact, if any of you out there, you want to do something very cool, I'm going to give you a phone number right now, and you could repeat this and write it down. 773-572-6398. 773-572-6398. The guy's name is Dominic Valente. He does a wrestling hotline called the Wrestling Hot Seat. He's been doing his hotline since the 1990s, I believe, maybe even earlier than that. And he was the inspiration for me to get my own wrestling hotline in 1997. And believe it or not, my friends, this is live. And hold on. Why is it not working? Why do I always have technical problems when we go live? What the hell? Why is it not? Look, I'm literally hitting the button. Nothing is happening here. Let me try one more time. I'll let you guys hear what it sounds like. Nothing is working. Let me try one more time. Oh, there it goes. Here, check this out.
How you doing, wrestling fans? It's Saturday, June 13th, here on the Wrestling Hot Seat. This is Dominic. Okay, we got good ones today.
Today's wrestling birthdays.
Wrestlers' birthdays: Virgil, Headbanger Thrasher, Jacques Rougeau, Otto Wands, Larry Destiny, Mexican legend.
Anyway, the bottom line is he still does a wrestling hotline. He's been doing it for like 30, 40 years. It's still going. If you call that number, leave him a message. Tell him, say, Anthony, Don Tony, Anthony the Funker. That's how you always knew me. My nickname was Funker because Terry Funk was my favorite wrestler of all time. Tell him, like, Anthony DeBlasi or Don Tony referred me. He's a good guy. I used to fuck with him a little bit back in the day. Joey would fuck with him too, but generally a good guy. And he lives like 10 minutes from me. He literally lives in the next town over. So, Boris, any comments on Meltzer telling me to redo the math? Dave Meltzer, as far as I know, did not tell me to redo the math. And if he did, he's wrong. He's wrong. Because I directly, this is the difference between me and Dave. Listen, Dave is a legend. I still subscribe to him. Even though I was going to cancel, I still have not canceled yet. And he could confirm that. My niece works for an advertising company in New York City. Netflix is one of their accounts. And she knows firsthand how advertising is done, how numbers are calculated. And the thing with the Raw rating for last week, I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. One number had to be wrong. So I reached out to my niece and I asked her, I said, listen, could you try to find out for me why this is, or is this an error? I said, I'm trying to figure it out. And she explained to me that the mask versus mask match was not an individual episode. It's not something that you could watch on its own on Netflix. It has no commercials either. It was a bonus video that WWE gave to everyone. So they attached it to the Raw episode at the very end as an extra for everybody out there. But the thing is that it wasn't calculated as far as the total length of the show, because the length of the show for Raw was an hour and 47 minutes. Only commercials aired during the first hour and 47 minutes. That's why they had the hour and 47 minute number. But at the end of the day, they included the total viewers and the view time of Chad Gable and Ludwig Kaiser because people watched it. And the whole episode was 3 hours long. I think she said 2 hours and 59 minutes. So when you take the total viewership for 259 and divide it into the number of hours, you get 2 million viewers. That's why the number seems so low. But as far as advertisers go, they look at the length of the show and they look at the total hours watched. And the advertisers are made aware that the total hours watched included video that had no commercials on it. That's why it's still, understand this, and I think this is what people need to realize. If you go on Netflix's website, you would think the total hours watched would be how you rank the top 10. Because if more hours are watched, more commercials are to be viewed as well. But they don't do that. They rate the top 10 with the overall viewership. So Raw, 2 hours watched, 2 million viewers, because it was 6.8 million hours watched and it was a 3-hour viewing. So it comes out to 2 million viewers. If they did not include mask versus mask in that calculation, Raw would have been 2.5 million viewers, and it would have ranked probably one step up. At the end of the day, let me put it like this. The people that touted last week that Raw's rating dropped 600,000 viewers, let's see if they put that much energy into it when it goes back up 500,000 or 600,000 viewers when this week's report comes out. That's the thing. See, like Dave's recent betting odds for King of the Ring, those were all made up. Those were all made up. Ask him, where'd you get those odds from? There was no betting websites. You go on Bet Online that you could legitimately bet right now and others. You know what you'll find? Great American Bash. That's all you'll find. You'll see a Lola Vice match and you'll see a Tony D'Angelo match. Trust me, I check all of the websites. I do my research. all of Dave's reports are in his head, what he thinks it is. And I'm not shitting on him right now. But, the thing with Dave is no one asks him for his source. No one asked him, where did you get these betting odds from? Where did you get these calculations from? What makes you think? And everybody think it's intriguing television to watch Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer go back and forth about this. No, it's not. It's an argument that shouldn't even be having because Dave is making it up in his head. And Brian Alvarez is challenging him on it. If Brian Alvarez truly wants to be authentic, he just should say, Dave, why are you making up these numbers? Why are you coming up with this at the top of your head? Like, why are we having this argument? I could see if you pulled it off of a betting website. I could see if you pulled this off of, or you talked to an advertising firm. Why are we having this discussion? It sounds compelling, but at the end of the day, it's an argument about someone making up stuff. I'm not saying he makes up everything, but again, ask him his sources for this stuff. He won't answer you. You didn't answer me. Listen, there was I don't know exact moment. There was a moment about 2 or 3 years ago where their numbers were dropping significantly. And what they did was they took all of their shows, put it behind a paywall on YouTube, and that dropped their numbers even further. And then there was a point where suddenly Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer were like debating a lot. Totally opposite sides about matches, about this, about that. And it started getting a lot more attention. And I think that is done by design, where they will clash on things because it's good guy, bad guy. It's Hannity and Combs, if anybody wants to go back further. And that's a good thing to do. I'm not criticizing it. But there is a clear and concise moment where suddenly, it's not like a light bulb went off in Brian Alvarez's head and he disagrees with a lot of what Dave says. This was intentional that they started, because trust me, you look at clips even a year earlier, you will see a lot of stuff being said about some things, and they're always in agreement with 90% of it, and there's a lot of like wacky stuff being said. There was a moment where suddenly the discussions were heavily debated, and it works. It works. Dave says, Tuna Meltzer gets his sauces from McDonald's. I bought McDonald's last week and they had the Big Mac sauce. I got it. That's so good, man. Even though it kind of feels it's like if you took maybe relish and tartar sauce and tomato sauce and mixed it all together, add a little horseradish with it. Kind of feels like you can make it yourself. So, all right, I'm going to jet. It's time for me to go. So I definitely want to thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I will let everybody know that starting next week, my shout outs to our Patreon family and our channel members here, I will put it at the start of the show as well as the end of the show. I will be updating it as well. There's a few names that I have to add. There's a few names that, I unfortunately have to take off. So those lists will be updated next week. And again, if you want to go check out Patreon, it's patreon.com/Don Tony. We're not greedy there. You get a lot of stuff there, and you can check out Joey and I talking for 4.5 hours from Thursday. Fun episode. And again, if you're a channel member here, you could access it here too. So, and then the website, wrestling-news.com. Download all the shows that we do weekly, because that does help us a little bit pay the bills, but also keeps us in the stats. It's very cool to find ourselves now back in the top 30, top 40. It was not that long ago that we were like 99 on the list. So slowly, we're starting to get back up there. And listen, adjusting to Kev not being here is hard. It's not just format of the show, and it's not about just discussion, but it's here in the heart. There's so many things that I would love to be talking to him about right now. I mean, it sucks. It's sad. My style will never change. There'll always be a DTKC vibe in what we do. We'll always be viewed as outsiders, which is fine with me. But, one thing I will always take pride in is authenticity. I say what I mean what I say. Some people will agree with it, some people will disagree with it, but you know deep down inside that if I give an opinion, I will tell you it's an opinion. I will not tell you news or facts based on my opinion. And unfortunately, with the Vince McMahon, Janel Grant situation, that is a perfect example of what so many people were doing out there. And, you know, it's embarrassing because you could see the motives of certain people and it caught on. Now she settles and a lot of people are like, wait a minute. She's just like everyone else. Holy shit. Everything that you convinced us that she was, she's not. Because if she was fighting for everyone, including herself, you don't negotiate. If he was a trafficker, if he sexually abused her, if he assaulted her, if he drugged her and did all these other things, you never negotiate. You never settle. Let the court force you to do that. Then you come off as a victim we were forced to do this. But when you willingly do this, you can't later give the perception that she was scared into doing this. But that's probably the only thing that people are going to say. And that's why I think fear was a part of it. I think she was extremely afraid that things about her were going to be made public. Some of this evidence that has not been made public yet would be made public. And Vince's lawyers would be vicious and do that. And, you know, again, it's sad to see so many people out there who are smart and unfortunately greed, you know, and it gets in the way more than anything else. But I don't mind sacrificing a little bit of greed or a little bit of exposure to be genuine, because you look at what we do and the track record speaks for itself. And I don't mean to say this in any cocky way, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If you take 5 minutes to tune in to hear something that I say, I owe you to give you as much honesty and authenticity as I possibly can. It's a respect factor. When I see people doing these rants and doing this and saying things that are just trigger words, you know, even the Maven video that people were asking me about this week, why I hate Triple H. I started watching it and he's like, you know, I really don't fault Triple H. I mean, I understand why this happened and I know I wasn't there. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Seriously. You put a title, Why I Hate Triple H, there better be hatred in it. Not in this, well, you know, he's good. He's very good at what he does. He plays the game. I don't know how long that lasts. 2 more years, 3 more years. Then it gets into Jim Ross territory. You know, so me, you know, if you take a moment, I don't ever want you to think that I just fucking conned you into hearing something that I said. I will tell you how I feel about something. And, you know, one thing you know is that it's always honesty here. But much love, everybody. I am out of here. And I will catch you all on the next one. Be well. And hold on. There's one little technical thing I need to do. I just realized that was up there all this time. So be well, everybody. Take care.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.